Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Glasgow Council, an SNP council, so therefore very stupid, brought in a low emission zone into a city that's already got extremely clean air. It's very weird. But of course, this has got nothing to do with air quality. They're barring vehicles based on age, not on emissions. And therefore you can have a brand new and yet highly polluting vehicle allowed into the city, but an older and cleaner engine will not be allowed in. Because of course it's got nothing to do with air quality, everything to do with control and movement of people. And they don't want the poor people coming into the city at all. It's all in preparation, of course, for the 15-minute ghettos that are being planned by the world elite to keep us in our place, while we live there and everything we will need will be in a close area, and we're not allowed to go in or out of other areas. That's ultimately the plan. Well, of course, we've got to reject it at every stage. But one of the things that's come up is the very, very stupid council didn't even bother checking their own fleet of vehicles. And they've literally just spent nearly £100,000 upgrading 16 vehicles so that they can now go into the city under their own new rules. There's still 600 vehicles to go. This is ultimately going to cost an absolute fortune. Many, many millions of pounds. Money that could elsewhere be spent on things like social care, care for the elderly, education, that sort of thing. Instead of upgrading cars and vehicles that they already have because of their stupidity. We'll take a look at this article and see why the SNP can never be trusted with anything. Here goes. So, SNP-led council splash out nearly £100,000, £88,000 of taxpayers' cash on upgrading just 16 vehicles for the low emission zone. Now, there's over 600 to go. I mean, all in all, this bill would come to somewhere like, what, £5 million, say, more or less? £5 million. Imagine what £5 million could do in terms of elderly care, in terms of education, in terms of the things that they really should be spending your money on, instead of upgrading vehicles that are perfectly serviceable and have only been made illegal by their own rules. It is madness, it is waste, it is typical of the SNP. They don't think because they're very stupid. Anyway, Glasgow City Council splashed out £88,000 of taxpayers' cash to upgrade its vehicles to make them compliant with its controversial low emission zone. That area of Glasgow that is apparently very dirty air, but when all tests are done, it's shown to be very clean air. And in fact, I did the video about a week or 10 days ago, which showed that after this emission zone started, the air quality in the centre of Glasgow got worse. You couldn't make it up. It is another embarrassing saga for the council, which has seen the launch of its environmental legislation marred with a number of issues. This includes more than 600 of its current motors being banned from driving in the city centre because they're too polluting. Bullshit. Bullshit line. It's not that they're too polluting, it's that they're too old. Because they haven't banned vehicles. The filter for these vehicles isn't based on their emissions, it's based on their age. You could have a very, very clean car and it wouldn't be allowed in because it's old. So that line is crap. It's not because they're too polluting, it's because they're too old. Glasgow became the first city of Scotland to ban motorists from driving older vehicles into a certain zone. With this launching on June the 1st, people can be fined £60 for breaking the rules, with this penalty increasing every time you break them. What's this got to do with clean air? It's to do with age of vehicles, and poor people are more likely to own older vehicles. This is discriminatory. It is plain outright discrimination of poor people. They want poor people out of the city centre. That's all this is. Dundee, Aberdeen and Edinburgh will follow suit in June 2024, with these measures designed to reduce air pollution in Scotland's biggest cities. Bullshit again. Nothing to do with air pollution. If it was, you'd ban the dirty cars, not the older cars. It's the ones that would be most polluting should be banned. That's how it works in London. They have a list of all the registrations, they mark them, they look at the registrations off on the cameras, it checks the vehicle, and if the vehicle fails to meet certain levels of pollutants and emissions, it then receives a fine. Otherwise it's allowed in. It's quite simple. Now, the Scottish Daily Express can reveal that the SNP administration splashed out £88,000 on retrofitting just 16 vehicles so they can be driven in the city. The upgrades converted the motors from Euro 5 to Euro 6 emissions at a cost of £5,500 per vehicle. And despite this, the council is still being forced to hire vehicles because some of its own fleet still don't meet the new rules. So apart from the money it's spending on trying to fix them, it's hiring vehicles to do the job of the vehicles it already owns because they are too old, not because they are polluting. It is madness. Who sits there and writes these rules and thinks that old means dirty and that new means clean? Because if that's the case, they are morons. They shouldn't be given that power. It is said that only a small number of the non-compliant vehicles were required to enter the zone, but they include all its uplift vehicles used for parking enforcement. Yeah, none of them can enter the city. You can park there for free. You're going to come back, your car will still be there. They can't get their own vehicles in to lift it. Isn't it fantastic? Of the 1,615 vehicles owned by Glasgow City Council, 616 are non-compliant, meaning they are no longer allowed inside the council's new low emission zone. A spokeswoman for Glasgow City Council told the BBC new low emission zone compliant vehicles are expected to be delivered to us in the near future. In other words, they're going to have to go out and buy new vehicles at an exorbitant cost when they have perfectly functional vehicles that are only banned because they're old. They may well be cleaner than the ones that they're being replaced by. It is madness. These people are wanking away money left, right and centre because of their stupidity. Somebody actually needs to challenge this in the court and say that because it's done on age of vehicle and not on the emissions, it's therefore illegal. It's got to be illegal, or it's got to be, what's the word? It's exclusionary, because you're excluding poor people. You're saying poor people are not allowed to freely enter a city, and yet you're still charging those very same people council tax. Isn't it weird? It's got to be illegal. Somebody's got to challenge them on this. Low emission zone, they continued anyway. Low emission zone compliant vehicles have been hired in the short term, so more money spent to ensure emission standards are met. It's got nothing to do with emission standards. This has nothing to do with emissions. Why do they keep lying and saying it's emission standards? Age, to ensure that only new vehicles are coming in. They're lying through their teeth. One of the most prominent motors which is banned from the city centre is the Lord Provost limousine, which is now up for sale. And we've previously told how the 3-litre diesel Volkswagen Phaeton falls foul of the restrictions and will need to be replaced. Not in emissions. Restriction being it's a year too old. Because it's diesel and it was made in like 2015, it's deemed too old. It's weird, isn't it? Other issues regarding the low emission zone include the fact that foreign owned vehicles can avoid the fines due to not being on the British database. Go and get yourself an Irish car. Honestly, brilliant. Nip over, go down the south, buy an Irish car, drive out, come over the ferry across the Stranraer, and you're good to go. The penalties for entering the zone are some of the harshest in the world, with the £60 charge doubling each time the vehicle enters the zone, up to a maximum of £480 for cars and light goods vehicles and £960 for buses and HGVs. Any further breaches means the charge will be the maximum. Glasgow City Council explained their reasoning for these high figures. They wrote, for information to ensure that low emission zones meet their objectives of reducing air pollution, which they cannot possibly do because you're not reducing emissions, you're reducing age of cars, that's all. It is essential that compliance levels are high. If you were that concerned about cleaning the air in a city that's already got very clean air, why are you not looking at what the vehicles are putting out? Why are you looking at the age of vehicles? Any claim that this is for clean air is a lie. It's absolutely a lie. It's all to do with control. And with that, I am coming up. So there we are, another SNP council getting it completely wrong and then lying to cover up. I think they've actually realised that because they've banned it, they're filtering out on age rather than emissions, they've been caught out on it. But they keep pushing the line, oh, air pollution, we've got to get compliant. And they talk about compliance, they're not talking about what it is. They talk about making them compliant. We spent 16,000 or 88,000 making them compliant. You mean buying new vehicles. That's all. Buying new vehicles. You weren't making them, weren't upgrading them. The weasel words, we were upgrading from level 5 to level 6. You weren't going in tinkering with the engines and changing things to make sure the emissions were lower. No, you just simply bought new vehicles. Tell people the truth, you lying liars. You've been caught out, you've realised you've been stupid, and you're still having to push the same bullshit line time and time again. Because you know what you've done. It's as simple as that. Thick SNP, you see, stupid morons. The only people who join the SNP are morons. And as for the people who vote for them, you can make your own mind up. Anyway, I'm out of here. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and please go and buy an Irish car to drive it simply through the middle of Glasgow on purpose. And goodbye.